Hello traders, this is Alex with the StockMatrix program. We did have a few trades at the end of this week. Again, here's the X account, kind of my standard intro. CBOT man 33 is my handle, but here I kind of post stuff to keep you current if you're following it real close. Again, we did have an IBM flip, which I'll talk about here. Let's go to the portfolio on bar chart, and it definitely just keeps climbing. It's a trickling, even though we had a 10% knock in IBM, we still keep climbing. You know, we started fictitiously at 150 grand on January 6th, and now we have 55 grand of actual value. We have 27,000 of actual ones that we've taken off. So pretty good. We have 90. Again, these fees are 90 trades, or dollar per trade, right? So we've had 90 trades, 17, of course, which we have on currently. And you can pause this, look through it. Again, in a system like this that follows a trend, you should take off the losers quickly, hopefully, and then the winners just stay on, right? We got a few up there that are pretty good levels, getting close to 10 grand. Now again, for us to get out and go short, the market will have to drop. So these, won't look as good if we do get stopped out. We still have on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 puts. So we increased one, with that IBM trade. And again, you can see here, which again, I'll talk about as a loser on a 10% gap down, basically. Here is, again, just, you can kind of look through this. It's just my trades. We do have several August ones on. If this trend doesn't buckle and give us a wrinkle, we've got these August ones on that will have to roll, right? Now, I have a specific rule for that, right? The week before, I would just automatically roll. So, stay in the money, one strike. Simple thing, right? So, again, some of these will be winners that will be taken off. And if it keeps trending for another 6 months up, then we'll just keep doing that. Right now, again, we're 90 days out in the future, at least, when we put these on, some of them more. So all these, the ones that were August, are at least 80 some days, right? So of that we've had on. All right, let's go to the actual program. Well, we got the statistical page brought up here, and these are the new annuals, the WDGAN annuals. These are the previous highs and lows in each of these stocks, which I find pretty important. And you can see we have quite a few. Of course, it's kind of the weekend deal, right? It kind of falls on either side of the weekend. Meta stands out. We got 2 that came in actually yesterday. So, pretty important. It came off its high. We're 26 days off that high. We did have a few of these markets make new all-time highs. JPM, BK, Microsoft, and NVIDIA all made new highs. Now, Coinbase made a new high a week ago, and I preached about that pretty hard, that we'll probably go up and take that high out. And once we look at the chart, you'll understand kind of the reaction, post-climactic action, right? So anyway, you can look at this printed out. We are about 57 days prior to the next solar eclipse, which happens to fall on close to the first fall, beginning of fall equinox. So that's pretty important to me, and anybody that studies GAN stuff, chart stuff, it's pretty important. We are currently 6 down and 11 up, right? And most of the ones down are losing money, right? So, but that's kind of a balanced trade. I like to see that and still make a positive gains. As you can see over here, we made a new all-time high in this index, right, of these select 17 stocks. So it just keeps creeping. A creeping market is a bullish market. And it does, though, what happens to these creepers, you'll have these adverse trades out of nowhere. Either it's a high, right, or it's a man-made caused break that they want it to go down so they can buy more, kind of thing. So you got to be always cautious. And that's why the options are nice, right? Again, you're not vulnerable to a 10% down like IBM just had. All right, let's go through the actual stock matrix charts. Again, quarter moons in time, square and 9 for the price. A 3-box method basically is how I run, how I know when to get in. It's a simple algorithm. There's a few rules, but not very many, right? And that's the key. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't get too wound up. Now you can see NVIDIA is creeping. It just keeps bouncing new highs. Obviously, this is the support area, right? We're about where our stop is. But again, the system don't care about that, right? So it's been a while, right? The lows were made here. 90 degrees over was nothing. So again, you got to start watching these next ones all the way out, because again, it's 45 was nothing, 90 was nothing. So you know that the odds, right, become increasingly better that those other future ones going to really cause some interesting activity. Here's Meta, again, one that made a new all-time high and then didn't follow through. Now we're short that, kind of got in on the low of that swing. Stops are down below the highs on Meta. Here's Coke, kind of just a dog with fleas, just can't get going. We have lost money in Coke, I believe, for the year. Here's Google. Just kind of a creeper. Finally got above the 1-to-1, and now we're against the 1-to-1. Closed right on it actually from the lows. So pretty important. Here is your cardinal cross, right? Gann's cardinal cross area, which is the 1-to-1 blend. So this will be support if you're looking for a big dip to maybe get in. Here's Microsoft. Again, just a creeper, but it's a bolter, right? We've had one lower close, actually one here too. So we've had a few lower closes. Here's another one. So you do get, but they don't ever follow through, right? Which is the telltale sign that you're undervalued in your actual stock price for whatever reason. And again, it's a battle of the war, I believe, too, between the AI systems out there. We got Grok, Google has theirs. Uh, I'm sure everything has their own AI system, whether it's their own or not. IBM has theirs, which I would never buy in a million years since they can't even predict their own stock price. That's my bitch of the year right now. It just pisses me off. All right, sorry. I'm already thinking about IBM when I get there. Here's Amazon, kind of a just to there, right? It's getting close to. I assume that these highs are so easy. We're going to go after them for sure. I think we'll take them out with ease, and then maybe break, right? Here is Apple, just a dog, the worst one of the bunch. Tesla, kind of in a big ass coil, which again is a good, right? As a building, a big if it has a big foundation, you can put a big ass building on it. This market has big foundation. Now we are negatively though holding the 1-to-1 trend line. You can see it's offered some good sales, potentially. If you're picking tops, which I don't do too much, unless you're using options, right? But anyway, you can see this pennant coil, whatever you want to call it, has support down here. And also, I think it could go all the way back to the solar eclipses. There's a pair of them down here. And that's probably, if I had to have a gun to my head and had to buy, that would be the area I would want to do it at. Here's Lynn, kind of, again, also a little congestional coiling kind of pattern. Popped a new high, bear trap, didn't follow through. There's no follow through to this. Pretty sloppy. And it'll probably be a sloppy uptrend is what I'm guessing. Here's ED, and that was the bull of the bulls when everything else was bearish, when NVIDIA and all them were making lows. ED was making highs, so it's opposites. And this is one of them that they've been fading. Edison electricity, I don't know, I'm sure they overcharge for their service, so they can, if their expenses go up, the customers pay more. So it's one of those companies that's a good investment long term, I believe, because they never will lose. I got my electrical bill once, and it had in their itemized deal, it had hedging losses. So the people that were paying for the bill had to pay for their hedging loss? Come on. Never seen one that said hedging gain and we got a plus. They need to fire their hedgers. Anyway, here's ED. It's holding the 1-to-1. It did pop it out, but then back below it. So it's a little negatory in my opinion. Even though we're long, I don't feel real comfortable with that yet. Here's Adobe, kind of a bear in this big ass 1-to-1 channel on the moons. So that's a big one. Just kind of holding this down. Of course, if it ever really got hammered, this is the, if you extend this 1-to-1, it's down in here somewhere, right? So, depending on the time. So, geez, it just looks heavy. I don't know. It's a high dollar stock. I got afraid Doge is having a little effect on some of these contractual companies that make money off the government. Here's IBM. Again, here's this 10% gap down out of nowhere. Intraday, we had a profit, right? We bought it here, had our stop here. We got gap through our stop. So there was no way, we ended up losing $400 or $500 on the trade, which doesn't bother me, right? I don't mind the loss. It's just that these guys preach their AI systems up like their holy gospel. Well, they can't even predict their own stock. I mean, what? They can't look into the shipping and, it should be smart, right? They should know everything. Now, I'm afraid that all these big AI companies it's a program, right? They can program whatever they want to be. So if they want these gaps, which apparently they do, because then again, they can buy this stuff, right? So again, I don't know. I got a bad taste in my mouth. This AI stuff should be smart. They should predict this stuff. I mean, my system makes money, right? So why can't they? They can't know every intricate detail of government. Trump's been around for a while, and all what he knows they're going to do, right? So there should be no surprise with a smart AI. I'm afraid they're programming these AIs to lose money in certain instances, because again, you can program it, right? It's just a program. It's not smart. I think it's going to be a corrupt deal, and I'm afraid you're going to get this a 10% whack down to the lows. That's a crime. They're stealing money. I just got a bad feeling. I don't like this AI stuff. I think you're gonna find out that they're not that smart. Again, the human intuition. But again, what that tells me though is all these other ones. Meta's up here. You got to be afraid of this gap now. IBM has led the way to show that it can happen. So is that the correction that we're going to get? Is one fat-fingered mistake, or come on? I don't understand it. It don't make sense to me. I mean, I don't think there's any quarterly report. But anyway, that's my bitch of the year. I'm bitching about it all the time. I see big gaps. In this day and age, you shouldn't have, you can see a little, but not a 10%er. That's a crime. That's just a crime. You shouldn't see that nowadays if you have an AI system employed. And if you should fire that AI if they ever have those, because they should tell you exactly what your stock is worth based on the future, the past, everything combined, cyclical stuff. You can program all that in there to tell you exactly what your stock's value should be worth. Seasonality, right? You sell more before Christmas, so your stock should be worth more now in the summer than it will be in the winter. I mean, all that it should be part of the AI platform, but they just don't have it. I think they're creating this stuff to cause chaos down the road. They could program a bear market pretty freaking easy into a platform. Anyway, that's my bitch of the century because it just pisses me off that and there's no one ever looks into it. Everybody accepts that a 10% break on a big stock like IBM. That's just a crime. Now Adobe has a bunch of those all freaking time. So I mean, not just IBM, right? I'm not trying to, but they're supposed to have one of the smarter ones. So, anyway, here's BK pop new highs. Just keeps climbing. 90 degree or 135 degrees over is August 23rd, and there's our next important zone. So we're not showing anything undervalued yet. We keep making higher closes. So since we made new highs here, it's trading undervalued. Procter & Gamble is definitely a negatory. We're kind of down in the zone. We did make new lows, so these are no longer really void, but they're still important cyclically. But off the highs, we definitely have some. 135 days was this one, so unknown yet. And 225 degrees off this other high was the actual low. So again, we haven't proven though that it's a low yet. Until we go long, probably in the system, probably tells me then that the lows are probably at least more stable and probably in. Here's the diamond JPM. You can see that this market just again kind of a slow creep, bangs down, has corrections, outside periods, inside periods, follow through, just kind of a creeper, right? So again, this was a 25% smash here in JPM out of nowhere. Of course, we started trading the platform right in here, so we did catch this bear on JPM, and now it turned into a bull, right? A V bottom, bear trap, poof, whoop, she went. And I assume, for every action is equal but opposite reaction. We made a V bottom here. We're going to make a V top. So you got to be a little cautious on getting, if you haven't got in JPM, I wouldn't recommend getting in here. I mean, options maybe, right? But no stocks. I mean, stay out of it if you missed it. Wait for a decent break, at least back to these old highs about where we got our stuff. Or even a better break would be back to this solar eclipse area for a longer term break and just stay out. Find ones that don't have that. Same thing with Coinbase. It had a huge pop. Now we talked about Coinbase, and I want to go through the daily charts a little more. But the all-time high was up here, and I said we'll probably take it out, and we finally did. And you can see it had a terrible close. So the reaction after making new highs was kind of a climactic one, right? It blew its load and it's over, kind of thing. And smoking a cigarette, So they finally popped new all-time highs on Coinbase. I think it was 1,560 some days. From its open all-time high to finally making a new high. That's a pretty good long-term view on coin. Here's Cintas. It had a new all-time high back in here on June 11th, and it's just struggling. So solar eclipse closes are the target, and two of them down here. Coming into another one. The previous solar eclipse was right here, right here. So again, it looks like the highs come before the eclipses, and lows or mid-range trade is around the eclipses, both lunar and solar. All right, let's go to the daily charts real quick. Try to speed myself up here. I can talk crap all day. Here's NVIDIA. Just keep grinding. We did pop another new high. Just kind of climb, climb, climb. Again, the creeper markets are kind of boring to talk about because you just make money. Whether you got calls or actual stocks, both make money, right? Again, we bought the thing way back in here and it's just made money. So unless you get a 10% break out of nowhere like IBM did, criminal fucking theft. Anyway, here is Meta. We had a bunch of annuals come in, right? So unknown for sure if these are highs or lows. I don't know. I mean, if it got smashed, I'll probably flip these around because again, this will be an important area in the future if we would be highs in here. The all-time high was made on the 30th, so again, I got a mark here. But you got to watch all the 30ths now on Meta. 14th's kind of right. That was the previous all-time high. The 21st was the low. So you got a nice low sequence. And that's a little different than all the other charts, right? Most of them made this low on the 7th, but we had a bear trap here. Now, again, for every action is equal reaction. We had a bear trap. I would assume a new high, but I'd be cautious of adding anything on new highs since we had the bear trap here. That's just my deal. Coke is kind of a chopper. Thought, preached this big diamond that was a dud. Now, in theory, though, the diamond's still important on time. So you might want to work it out yourself. Maybe haven't done it, but kind of figure out where the diamond ended and then double that again. Because again, it looks like we're just the cycle of this action is just staying in the pattern, right? So again, it might be 2 months or something, and then away she goes. So anyway, the 66 sequence from the 7th low stopped in here. So again, just a dud all the way around. Let's move on. Google, kind of a slow creep. Definitely one if you're spreading stocks. This is a good one to have on your short sale. long Meta, short Google, or long Microsoft, short Google, right? Because again, if you're a spreader, because again, the spreads, this one goes up, right? But now Apple will be a better one on the short side because it's definitely a dud. But it's a creeper, right? And I assume that it's going to continue creeping. We do have some pretty good annuals here on the fifth, or fourth. Anyway, fourth, I believe. So anyway, these are last year. Well, let's just look at what Google did. We have a low on the fourth. Oh, yeah. Here was the high. Kind of a similar break, right? So we had a high, and then here was the low. So just kind of a interesting little pinching kind of a, but that's all the breaks you get in a lot of these markets. They're kind of structured breaks, right? So all right, let's move on. Here's Microsoft again. Really, the bull of the bulls, really undervalued. Whatever caused this gap up, again, they must not have very smart AI. They should have known that a long time ago. Anyway, um, it just keeps creeping, right? There's no challenge of this at all. We had one weird anomalous day right in here, and then gapped back up. Really, anyway, um, just a strong market, and definitely one that might have a rush. Again, all these markets tend to have a climactic end, right? Either in a bear, when the bear finally finished, it's pretty climactic, right? That was a big ranging day. Same thing at the highs. A lot of times on these that are really getting, whoever's short's really screwed, right? So the climactic event is a logical thing. We didn't really have a V bottom here. We did have a structured bottom, so I'm assuming it'll take 3 weeks or something to finally make the top. So once you get out, you kind of have to stay out for, I would say, a few months if you ever pulled the trigger and bailed on it. Here's Amazon. Again, I'm assuming we're going to make new highs. Makes sense to me. Um, no big whoop here either way. Here's the solar eclipse now. We're coming into the next one, so which is an important solar eclipse because it loses one moon period of time. So from solar to solar, the amount of days are a lot less. One full moon difference, right? 28 days, 27 days. We lose a full cycle of time in this next moon, which happens once in a blue moon. Wow, that's where you get once in a blue moon. Anyway, here's Amazon, kind of creeper. I got this marked on both sides because I don't know if it's a high or low yet. I'm assuming a low, right, as it keeps creeping highs. And again, I assume we're going to rush out that all-time high. Here's Apple, the dud. It did get above the 1-to-1, but man, there's just nothing there. It's just a sick pup. Again, I'm not saying that like it's going to go down. I'm just saying that the speed of the incline is so slow compared to the others that it's pretty tough. I mean, even from that big terrific low, you're 60 cents a day is the speed up from that low, and then let's just go from like this low. Yeah, 70 cents per day. I mean, just a slow turd. Um, it's not, again, if you don't mind, Apple's a good company, right? I'm not, but they got some issues. So, and the competition might get stirred up once you get Tesla involved. And speaking of, here's Tesla. Again, this little kind of got a definite triangle going. Um, so Tesla is one of those markets that I think are proven to be trade worthy. So again, these zones, all of them, you can see they're definitely tradable. When you get like 3 or 4 things lined up, pretty important, right? Here's one that was low. Now you wouldn't have probably picked that unless you're a gambler. I would have waited for some type of break of the trend line, and it gave you a good trade. Here's another one, just kind of continuation. But once it broke that out, of course it did it on a gap. Come on. So Tesla's one of those that are definitely tradable. Here's Lynn, kind of caught in its own wake after this huge bear trap anomaly. It just came out of nowhere, just poof, poof, bing, bing. And again, in this day and age, that's uncalled for. Maybe back in the 70s, 80s, you could expect that, but not in this smart AI days. Anyway, this is it's kind of a tradable market. Here's ED, kind of a slow troglodyte, just kind of there, kind of the bull of bulls when everything else was bearish. And then again, makes sense, right, that we're not doing anything to the bull side. You can see that the highs were distributed, so for every action is equal, but opposite reaction, I expect these lows, which they're doing, to be distributed. And I would say if you're a bull, you wait for a secondary break, either in new lows, doesn't have to, right, because it didn't up here. So I would assume some break back in here. It'd be nice options only, because again, the fear would be that we're in some big bear trend, right? Adobe kind of caught in the channel. It's a high dollar stock, right? 370 for Christ's sakes. I've never paid for Adobe ever, at least up front. But you can see it has its own kind of, the 7th was that low, right, that we've been preaching about. And it's been a good tradable 7th. Here's a, again, just it holds support, and if it ever takes it out, it's tough to get back through, kind of thing. Here's IBM again. Here's a stupid ass gap down 10%. Let me see what it actually gaps. 7% from, and it wasn't a weekend, right? It was just over the, I don't know, some news came out. Really, smart AI should know the news. I'm sorry. They should have all that built in. Um, hey Alexa, are you smart?
Try my best.
Alexa says she tries her best. Yeah, that's so funny. Look, we're gonna get screwed, man. These traders are gonna get. They start using this AI stuff, they're gonna get so freaking hammered. All right. Anyway, here's BK, a grinder, outside event. Again, just strong. Don't know why. Again, I'm not a fundamentalist, but it's been a nice bull trend that we've caught. Procter & Gamble, kind of the bear of bears, had some negative news, obviously. Some of their products as they're switching over into less, kind of the Trump administration's way of thinking, less poison in our food. Well, yeah, duh. I don't know why you think you had to heave it in there, but anyway, all these colors and whatnot, food dyes. Well, you think because something looks a certain way, it's like I bought some hamburger the other day. It was so red. I go, there's nothing no way that the hamburger's that red. Here's JPM, popped a new high. You can see it's just a nice climber. A little concerned here that it didn't follow through, but again, I know it's so small, but these lows that we made yesterday, which is Friday, Friday the 25th, that's an important low. I mean, if that ever took that out, I think this high, especially if whatever it does, but that low is important. So I know it's so minor that it doesn't seem real, but that's what I'd be focusing on, me personally. Here's Coinbase. Now you can see, and we preached this quite a bit that when back in here, right, that we're probably going to pop these highs out, and it did, right? This is the all-time high on the first day. So um, what was it? It was 429.54. And you can see we popped it up pretty good, but man, it closed crappy. After popping it, the cigarette was getting lit, and down we went some more. It just a typical reaction. They push to knock that out, and then the reactions. Now maybe you buy this break, right? I don't know. I'm not trying to advocate anything. System's long. I don't care. But if it ever goes short, it might be a good short too, right? Here's Cintas, kind of a chopper. You can see it made new highs, no follow through, and banging around. So this sideways action is what I expect, and I think Cintas is probably going to continue to creep out highs. Don't buy strength on Cintas for a while. At least once we got this high was made on November 24th. After a year, right? So it'll be a couple more months. Especially if it drops again, these continuational bases are really pretty easy, right? I mean, that's kind of what you're looking for. Some type of action where it's having a hard time going down, right? This is kind of a BlackRock protected company. I know they have a pretty good jag of Cintas. So again, I'm not trying to advocate BlackRock, right? I don't really care. But you look at all the big companies out there, there's probably 3 or 4 really big dogs. And if they have that in their portfolio, they won't get out very easy. It would have to be a pretty important shift in the company. Cintas has had some pretty negative news over the years that never even got out, never got even in there. So again, it's reacting to all this positively. It's just going to be a chopper. It's more of a buy the dip, sell the rally. Bigger, like this one is a 20% break, right? That was an easy one. Even if you waited, you'd have bought it in here, and you might have traded a few times. But pop new highs, you got out, right? Maybe sell it if you're a trader, right? Or buy puts, right? So I just think it's kind of a tradable market or one of those if you're going to buy and hold and accumulate. You buy on the dips, and the solar clips down here is a logical area for me. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. Let's go on to the S&P. This is the E-mini S&P. You can see that it keeps creeping out highs. Now, again, these creepers usually have a climactic event to end it. This is the bottom of that climactic event after the break. So I assume that same type of action. So again, if you're going to have some big ranging day, it might get up in here. I mean, and then again, it could be pretty big. I don't think it's just going to die on the vine, or it'll have some weird ass gap like IBM just had. Here's the Dow, kind of the dog with fleas. Not again, meaning it doesn't mean that it ain't going to make new highs. It's just compared to the other ones, it's the one that they're selling. So I just think you got to assume it's going to creep out highs, and it's going to be slower than the Nasdaq or the S&P. Which again, here's the Nasdaq. Pretty simple trade. Just no volatility. To trade the Nasdaq at S&P, I know it's 20 grand almost. To trade futures, Jesus. And this is low of a drag. I mean, you're not making rate of return. It's pretty shitty. on those. For the margins to be much cheaper. I don't know why they had so high. Because IBM drops 10%. That's why. Out of nowhere. Anyway, here's a QQQ. Again, kind of following the NASDAQ-ish. Has a little different setup, but it follows the NASDAQ. And you can see it's just a nice trade. You know, you can draw a trend line in. Pretty simple stuff. You know, parallel channel, or, you know, if you're into that. Pretty simple stuff, right? Now, let's just do it real quick. Uh, you know, there's your channel. You know, maybe adjust it down to a little faster activity. It's a simple trade, right? I mean, you know, pop up, you know, trade this channel. Man, that's such a narrow thing to trade for me. I don't like it personally, but all right, that's it. I am done. I'm going to check one thing out. Hang on. Here's the Dees Gold weekly. Now, this first chart I'm showing you is just the 2005 contract, 2025 contract of just December, right? It goes out into the future quite a ways, 5 years, 6 years or so. So this is when it first came on in 2021, the COVID era. Now, I'm going to adjust this to a weekly continuation of just December, no spot. Hang on. Okay, here's the weekly continuation, you know, from back in the cheap days when gold was 300 bucks an ounce, right? But here's that 2001 COVID era. You can see this is Dees only. So 1600 it got down to almost, and now we're at 3200, right? So we've doubled in value on the gold futures. But you can see that, again, that looked like a low, right, on that chart, which it was. But you can see it just was the middle of nowhere, right? So these contracts out in the future, let me see. I'm going to put you on hold here. I'm going to pull up like Dees 2030. Hang on a second. All right, here's the 2030 December contract. You know, it started here on January 1, looks like. We did have very little volume, of course, but again, that's where it started, basically this year. And you can see that it's went from 3,100 to 4,250 in this range, right? So let me put a weekly on there, give you a little more, you know. So again, the red line follows along. Let me spread this one out. Uh, Okay, I've got it set up here kind of how I want to show you. I don't know why I'm doing this. I just like to instruct, I guess. Anyway, you can see that this low, it's following. Now this is to the left is December 30, 2030, and this is the current December 2025. So you can see that it's, if this would make a new high here, right, that would tell me that it's not bearish. You know, we're trading at 4120 on December 2030, and we're at 3414 in this December, right? So there's a premium, a difference. So even if Dees didn't go anywhere, that tells you that this December contract could go up to 41, right? So again, it's projecting 42. It's projecting kind of where the possibilities are. But it's just fascinating to me that these time out in the future do offer some trading ability. But which again, the stock market, you don't have to worry about that stuff. So, all right, I'm rambling. Sorry, I could talk charts and shit all day long. But yeah, we did pop some highs out, and it didn't follow through yet. So be a little cautious on how you're trading. But it's just the system itself is just a creeper. We just keep making a little bit every day, right? No big deal. Last two videos, you know, went, you know, increased 20 grand or 2 grand is all, but it's still creeping. Now again, we will have to do some manual updates, and I'll let you know about those unless it has a spin first down memory lane and knock us down. But it looks like we're gonna have to definitely roll some of these August ones out into the future. All right, I'm signing off. Everyone have a great next week. Ciao.